like a bunch of bros. Cheers.
Cheers.
He's a perfectionist and I am always busy.
On one hand, you have, of course, the Thakbandhan or the India alliance, which on the other hand, it is not really BJP that is contesting. It is Narendra Modi that is contesting.
If a party is so truly confident of winning, why is it encouraging defections in the opposition?
The numbers can be managed to pass path-breaking reforms.
What impact do you think CAA is going to have in these polls? 2024 Lok Sabha Polls. It's been in the lip of every person who's been watching the news. How is this election going to turn out? How are the primary players going to perform? Which party is going to win how many seats? How have the seat allocations worked? What's going to be the outcome? Is the alliances in different states, are they going to work as well as they sound on paper? What is going to happen in this election? What's the larger narrative for this country? And where are we headed from here and after the polls? That's going to be the central theme of this discussion that I'm going to do in this very special podcast in a studio here today with a very special guest, Suraj Balakrishnan, a friend of mine with whom I've been wanting to do this show for a very long time. And I think we share a very effortless, easygoing, breezy chemistry as friends, which will show in this podcast. I hope you watch this show and take value from it. And do let us know what you think about it. And this show starts in 3, 2, 1, go. Hello everyone. Welcome to an all-new episode of the Indic Explorer Show. I'm your host Vineet, and this is a very special show that I'm shooting today, the 71st episode of this podcast. And as you can see, the setting of this podcast is very different from the usual podcast that we do. The talk of the town across the country is the Lok Sabha Polls 2024. The buzz is very different from other elections. It's a little bit muted than every time because it seems like the person who's going to win is kind of, pretty much there. Everybody kind of knows, it's just a question of how much. But I want to challenge assumptions, I want to get into facts, and I want to bust some myths. So I thought that this should be a very special show in a very intimate setting, and I have a very special guest. But before that, like any other channel, this one also requires your help and support. So please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And please do give your comments on the episode that we do today. So with me, I have a very special guest, a guest whom I consider to be a good friend. And, this episode has been, 2 years in the making, and I'll come to that. But with me, I have Suraj Balakrishnan. Namaste, Suraj. Welcome to the show.
Ji. Thank you for having me. And finally, we are sitting face to face.
Absolutely. So Suraj and me, we know each other for like 3-4 years now. And I've been wanting to call him on the show, but he's a perfectionist and I'm always busy. So we've never really come around to do it. And now, finally, so far so good, like finally we've come together on this very special occasion.
It's funny, we've been in touch since the clubhouse days of the COVID period. And now just a few days before the Lok Sabha election 2024, we are meeting face to face for the first time. So it's a very unique experience for me as well.
Yeah. So Suraj, before we start, I think like a bunch of bros, cheers.
Cheers.
This is going to be a very different kind of discussion. It's like two bros, like a man's man conversation. So we are going to talk about all the burning issues. But before that, Suraj, you have been, a football presenter, sports, now politics, varied interests. And for a change, you are the one who usually hosts these shows.
Correct.
So how does it feel sitting on the other side?
Just like I mentioned to you, I think a few minutes back, it's actually much easier because normally when you're the host, you have to prepare on how to introduce a guest, how to, form the early part of the conversation. Right now, just answering questions is actually very easy because you have the tough job to ask me the questions and I have the easy job to answer it, except when you ask tough questions.
So I'll try and ensure that your life is difficult. So let's come down to the topic. So as per a Morning Consult survey, and it's not an Indian agency, it's done this survey globally for all chief executives across different countries.
Narendra Modi has popularity ratings of 76%, and that's a whopping number, right? It is above any other leader, prime minister, president across the world. What exactly makes him tick? Because this is not a first term, this is a third term, and 10 years will give anti-incumbency for any leader in India or anywhere else. But his popularity seems to be growing. So what exactly ticks for him? What is working for him?
No, Vineet, that's a beautiful question, because if you look at this election, in 24 now, on one hand, you have, of course, the Dhagbandhan or the India Alliance, which is a mixture of, parties with different ideologies, different leaders, all selfish, interests who want themselves to be the Prime Minister, Home Minister, Finance Minister, and what have you. On the other hand, it is not really BJP that is contesting. It is Narendra Modi that is contesting. If you look at the slogans, in the last 2 months, it is not BJP ki guarantee. It is Modi ki guarantee. In Kerala, it is Modi would guarantee, in terms of the local flavors. So it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi that is contesting this election. And as you said, 10 years a man has been Prime Minister in a country with a lot of different languages, different jati varnas, different way of speaking, way of dressing up, different dialects, different temperatures, different, food habits. So it is a very, very diverse country. Unlike, say, you can take a Finland or an Iceland or, even certain countries in, even Pakistan, for example. It's a more homogeneous country. So in a heterogeneous country, for a man who has been Prime Minister for 10 years, to have a 78%, not by any Godi media, but by an American outlet called Morning Consult, it just tells you, this phenomenal popularity of the man, because it is not about, one issue like, say, Hindutva, which we can come to, or, another issue about welfare schemes, or about, just about the opposition being useless. It's a combination of everything. So this in itself, the fact that you have a Prime Minister who has almost 80% popularity just tells you that in terms of democracies and, even beyond democracies, he is the most popular leader right now in the world. And that's a fact, whether you like it or not.
Do you think we are moving towards a more presidential system? Because where personalities and people become more important than the party itself. Many would say that Modi's popularity actually even goes higher than the BJP's popularity, right? So do you see that we may move towards a more presidential system itself, not just in operative terms, but in real terms after these polls?
Again, great question. So one of the former BJP leaders who was a union minister, who's now not very, not in very good books with the High Command, Arun Shore, he wrote a beautiful book on presidential form of democracy versus parliamentary form of democracy, and the advantages of both, and, what his opinion is about how India should go ahead. I think every viewer really must read that book. It's a fascinating insight. So this has been, in the talks for a long time about how we should go ahead. But I personally, I can't see it happening yet, because just like in the past, this parliamentary system helped Indira Gandhi, because Indira Gandhi had a substantial consolidated vote share of, the poor, the Dalits, the Muslims, etc. And the opposition was divided. You had your communists, your Jan Sangh, etc. Now you have BJP with a consolidated vote share of the poor, the OBCs, the different communities, caste groups, and of course the Hindutva factor. And on the other hand, you have the opposition divided. So I'm not sure if it will help, BJP as a party to do this presidential system of governance right now. But I think the jury is out. I mean, I don't really have one clear answer to this. Both have advantages. America, they seem to be liking the system with, Biden versus Trump or a Hillary versus Trump equation. India, I'm not so sure, because you have a lot of different parties, a lot of different interest groups. Like, for example, Chaudhry Charan Singh, party, the RLD, right, which now was a UP ally, now an NDA ally. Would they or all these smaller parties want this kind of a system? I'm not so sure.
Do you think when a system becomes more about personalities, sometimes issues can go in the back burner? Or do you think that a person, through their personal credibility, can leave a stamp on these issues?
Yeah, this is the question that all the liberals and all the so-called intellectuals keep asking, right? Should we have a mudde pe election hona chahiye ki neta pe, so to speak, leader or the issue? So in this question, it's in an ideal scenario, the issues definitely are important, but let's be practical, right? I mean, you need a leader to carry out the issue. In my building, right, in Mumbai, to form a part of the committee, for there are a lot of members, residents who want to be the chairman, the managing director, the secretary, treasurer. There's so much of politics. Just in a building election, in an RWA election, as to ye kaun karega, who is going to be take control of the money, who will take care of the gym, etc. Itne sare issues hote hain. So in a building RWA election, if there are so many issues, you can imagine in a country scenario, there's going to be huge elections. So the leader who will implement these policies, whether it is, some 7 guarantees or 10 guarantees of Congress, or the UCC plank, or, the other planks of the BJP in terms of one nation, one election, you need a leadership that can deliver. So in that, in that sense, the leader is extremely important. Without a good leader at the top, no matter how many great issues you have, if the existing people keep fighting, like BJP beautifully showed an ad recently, I think you're going to, it's not going to work. So leadership is very important.
So in terms of issues, what issues are going to occupy the central theme in this election? Or is it going to be about personalities? So if we're talking about issues in terms of CAA, Ram Mandir, what issues do you see which will hold the people's mind space?
So I think let me, maybe carry on from your first question about why Modi ji is so popular, right? Or why, Congress cannot really compete. Now, most supporters of the government and the opposers of the government, the pro-BJP and the anti-BJP faction, they have a feeling that Modi ji jeet rahe Ram Mandir ki wajah se, Hindutva ki wajah se, religion, polarization, etc., etc. But when you actually go into the data, and this is not one cephalogist saying, if you look at Access My India, a reputed polling agency, if you look at CSDS Lokniti, another reputed polling agency which has done a lot of work, both these have got a lot of elections right, some wrong of course, but across the board people say that it is the main function of why Prime Minister Modi or this government is popular. It's broadly good work of the government, as the image of the government, which is good, the personality of Prime Minister Modi, the leader, then the welfare schemes, the Labharti schemes, the welfare schemes, the socialist schemes that we talk about, Ayushman Bharat, Kisan Yojana, Jan Dhan, everything, JAM treaty. So these are the things that really works. Now, does Ram Mandir have an impact? Of course it has an impact. I mean, any proud Hindu would be happy that, a Bhavya Mandir is, has finally been constructed in honor of Prabhu Lord Ram. But at the same time, is that the only issue that even a practicing Hindu would want to vote for? Not really. So Ram Mandir is definitely an issue, especially because the opposition is making fun of it and, not respecting the sentiments of the majority. But that could be, I would say, the number 4th issue, after the personality, the image of the government, and of course the welfare schemes. And then of course you have, certain other issues like your Article 370 abrogation, that helps. Then the decisive, nature vis-a-vis Pakistan, Pulwama, Balakot, what happened there, not allowing the stupid talks with Pakistan, which like we used to under Dr. Manmohan Singh. In terms of a personality, right? Prime Minister Modi is a very unique personality because here you have somebody with 50 plus years of experience. He was a RSS pracharak during his younger days. He would, travel the length and breadth of the country, promoting the RSS ideology, going from village to village, then, city to city, length and breadth of the country. Then he had 15 years as a BJP General Secretary, where he looks after the organization. How is the party doing in that state? Are the leaders united? Are there too many factions? To make sure the rallies go well, the leadership is happy, etc. Then, of course, he had 13 years as Gujarat Chief Minister and 10 years as Prime Minister. So you have a person with 53 years of experience, a political worker with 53 years of experience, both as a leader and as a ground level worker. And that is something which is unheard of in a democratic environment. Whether you look at, in Europe, America, Asia, you either have monarchies or dictatorships where the leader is permanent, like, you have in North Korea with Kim, or you have a quasi-communist dictatorship like China with Xi as the de facto leader. So this is very unique.
So with the onset of social media, you mentioned issues like Pulwama or even for that matter Ram Mandir, right? The lifespan of a news cycle is very limited. So when you are right now in this particular month, just a few weeks away from actual polls to get done fully, right? The first phase is just about to start at the time of this recording. Something that happened a few months ago or a few years ago, how much do you think that will be part of the headspace? And I ask this specifically in the context of Ram Mandir. Because yes, there was a lot of hype, hoopla, there was a lot of celebration across the country, right, across different communities because of the launch of this Bhavya Ram Mandir, which many people have been waiting for. But somehow at this point of time, that seems to have died down a little, the energy, that it's not really hogging the mind space that much. And the reason I ask you this is because Ram Navami is coming. The birthday of Lord Ram is coming. It's beckoning us, right? So do you think it's going to get a second injection and it's going to again buzz up again, or has the hype died down now?
So yeah, just for the viewers, we are obviously shooting a few days before the first phase, and we are shooting before Ram Navami as well. So we don't really know exactly what will be the the impact. But logically speaking, as a few people have said before, it's very difficult to see Ram Mandir being in any way bad for the BJP, because either some people say that only the BJP supporter or the die-hard Hindus or the practicing Hindus are going to vote for BJP because of this, which has some level of credence, because only a believer will be happy. And why would a centrist atheist be too happy with Ram Mandir? Maybe not. Maybe yes for the economy, maybe not. So on the other hand, what the issues like this do is it does galvanize the opposition, especially the strongly anti-Modi faction. So if a opposition party can very clearly take a position against, which Congress finds it hard to do because they don't want to upset the Hindus too much, then they can get that vote share. Like in TMC in Bengal, Mamata Banerjee has very smartly taken a certain position which appeases the Muslims of the state quite well. So the entire anti-BJP vote in Bengal will come to TMC. That's the advantage. But to answer your question, I mean, it's been a couple of months or more than that now, almost 3 months. It's a tough one because that novelty factor is not there. But if you remember, there's something called Akshat wave, where because of the Mandir, the Akshat was given across the country, whether it's in UP itself, in Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu, in Bengal, in Odisha. Akshat was there everywhere. So the Akshat wave and the that devotion which a believer has vis-a-vis the Prasad and having that that resonance to Lord Ram, that cannot be underestimated. And I'm sure that Modi ji and the BJP leadership will talk about it in Ram Navami, and just 24, 48 hours before the election, it is going to have some impact.
So part of the narrative is that the BJP is very self-confident in terms of the numbers it's going to win. Of course, it's given the Karyakartas the target of 370 and 400 plus and all of that. But then two things. One is that I'm not able to kind of understand in this central narrative, which is that if a party is so truly confident of winning, why is it encouraging defections in the opposition? Why does it need the opposition leaders when it says that the opposition is discredited anyways, right? To get those leaders inside you, number one, that what that does is the internal Karyakartas and those who have been working hard for a lot of years, they get ignored. So that is one. And the other aspect is, of course, the crackdown on opposition leaders. So one is you're getting them in, funneling them inside, and the second is the others, the crackdown, the famous, washing machine comment. So why would a party which is expecting to win anyways do these things at the time of polls? And even if these are legitimate things to consider, why can't it be done after the polls, especially the opposition crackdown?
Yeah, that's $1 billion question. I think that is the question that a lot of political scientists, a lot of voters, common people, the Aam Aadmi on the street, they are thinking, ye karne ki zarurat kya hai? What is the reason for Modi ji and the leadership and the BJP government to do this? I think if you have to go a bit into history regarding this, the one thing that we can say for sure, this duo, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, they do not take any election lightly. No election is a small election for this duo. Right from the time they were in Gujarat, then they came to Delhi. They fought that UP election in 2014 where BJP was nowhere initially. Then they came to win 73 seats with Apna Dal. So this is a standard operational procedure of this duo, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. even a small, if you remember, Vineet, the GHMC election.
Exactly.
In Hyderabad.
Come to that, yeah.
GHMC election, which was a very local municipal election, a smaller version of BMC here in Mumbai. That election was fought as though it is, the American presidential election, as though it was the most important election, in history. So this leadership does not take anything for granted. If tomorrow there is an election here in Shivaji Park or in Dadar or in South Mumbai or in Matunga, that election is going to be taken very seriously as well. So, this is a feature of this government. So, and they do believe that there is some merit in defections, in the sense that a strong leader, a grounded leader of the Congress, who is not given the respect in the Congress. Like you had Sanjay Nirupam recently, putting a press conference saying that I have never felt respected. Milind Deora said the same thing. Jyotiraditya Scindia said the same thing. Himanta Biswa Sarma said the same thing, the famous insult with pity. So you have a lot of Congress leaders who don't feel respected there. And that is not, the responsibility of the BJP. That is the responsibility of Kharge ji, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and the Congress leadership. So if that is a scenario and if they can add value to the BJP or disrupt the opposition, I think it's fair game. Politics is a game of love and war. All love and war is fair in politics. And I think that is why they're doing it. But you did bring out another, question about the, merging of the parties or the alliances. I think BJP does want these caste-based parties like an RLD, like or regional parties like Shiv Sena, the Eknath Shinde ji Shiv Sena, to ally because they add the incremental vote. An average Jat in Western UP, who is a very loyal supporter of Chaudhry Charan Singh ji and Jayant Chaudhary, the fact that BJP is allying with them, they'll be more inclined to vote for the NDA. The same way, in Maharashtra, an average supporter or well-wisher of follower of Balasaheb Thackeray, he will want to vote for NDA because you have a popular chief minister, Eknath Shinde. So that is very, very important. The caste groups, the regional parties, even an AGP in Assam, their supporters will want to vote for NDA because they've allied with the BJP. That's very important.
I'll come to the Maharashtra part because that's a very $1 million question. It requires its own section. But in terms of the CAA, right? Because it's been bought again at this time, just before the elections, and it's been in abeyance for quite some time. What impact do you think CAA is going to have in these polls?
Yeah, the CAA is a very interesting topic, right? Because we've been talking about it, if you remember, after Modi ji came back to power in 2019, in May 2019. Things were pretty, even though, the government made a lot of tough decisions. Article 370 abrogation, Ram Mandir judgment had come. Then you had a couple of other things happening. Things were peaceful, Things did not go beyond a certain thing. But it was during the winter of 2019, November, December, after the Maharashtra elections, when the CAA, NRC, that famous Amit Shah's comment about chronology, when that went viral was when things really got polarized. Till then, you had a lot of my friends who weren't really into politics, who didn't really, care too much about who's winning, who's losing. But once this, issue came, it became very polarized. And, a lot of people lost friendships, a lot of families were divided, etc., etc. So CAA, I think it is definitely something that does not look historically very good for the BJP, because that was one of the promises that, they said they will do. And it has taken until the very end to do it, right? The whole CA chapter. They had started this in the CA, subject was raked up before the 2019 elections. In November 2019, the bill was passed in Parliament, approving CA in both houses. So legally, there's no problem. Legislature, there's no problem. But after that, when you saw the barbaric riots, some horrific riots in Delhi, in UP, and in a lot of certain pockets with a certain population, especially Shaheen-Bagh was a huge riot. That, I think, did kind of have an impact, and the government, in their wisdom, decided to postpone the implementation. They kind of held it back. And it wasn't even done during the Bengal election, which was surprising. Because, Bengal, again, what happened, the CA effectively is what? It is a law which impacts 2 or 3 states. It impacts mainly Bengal, a bit of Assam, and, pockets of Bengalis in, say, Tripura and, other, when they've gone to other parts of the country to work in. It's basically involving 2 communities. You have the Matuas and you have the Rajbanshis. And, a few other, people who come from Bangladesh after the 71 war. So the Hindus that have, come to escape persecution from these Islamic countries, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan, and what is the third one? Pakistan, Bangladesh. So, Hindus who have come to escape persecution from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh. Many of them have settled in Bengal and some of them in Assam. So, Assam is where there is an anti-Bangladeshi feeling, not just anti-Bangladeshi Muslim, but also anti-Bangladeshi, Hindus as well, which Himanta has beautifully settled it. The leadership has done a fantastic job to settle the differences. In Bengal is where the BJP has a lot to gain. And because they didn't implement it before the Bengal elections, I think they did lose a certain amount of vote there, marginal vote there. This time, all the Matuas, the Rajbangshis, and a lot of the so-called lower castes will vote for BJP because of the CAA, and it will have a very positive impact for the BJP. In Assam, it could have a negative impact in one district or so, but I think you need a capable leader, and Himanta Biswa Sharma is a very capable leader, and that is where the BJP is winning.
So, in terms of these very important issues taking the limelight, let's say the polls are done, and for an assumption that for now that BJP comes to power, right? What do you think would be the kind of bills that they would pass? Because I ask you because 2019, after winning, that the next 6 months, some of the laws passed were like path breaking, right?
Yeah.
One after the other, Amit Shah went on he was on a roll. So, do you see the Uniform Civil Code, any verdict on the delimitation, what impact that will have, the caste census? Do you think these or any other issues like, whether it is temples being freed from government control, do you see any of those big issues being resolved?
So one thing we can all safely say, if we want to predict Modi ji and Amit Shah ji, you would be wrong, because they always have a surprise, up for grabs. They always have a surprise. So if we say that sirf ye hone wala hai, you can be guaranteed that kuch aur hoga, at least in a certain manner. UCC, see, if you look at the BJP or, earlier the Jansang and when the modern day BJP began in 1980, the central premises of the BJP was what? Article 370, abrogation, Uniform Civil Code, and Ram Mandir. Right now, under the leadership of Narendra Modi, Ram Mandir has been done. Article 370 abrogation has been done. So the only remaining, pillar of those three central themes is UCC, which I think will happen. Only thing I think the leadership will not want to, get mass-scale riots on the ground. So they will do it in a smart manner. May not be gung-ho the way certain other things like Article 370 happened with, security forces going to Kashmir and making sure there's peace. But it will happen. But the first 6 months, as you said, is going to be very interesting because if the BJP gets the numbers, and we'll come to the numbers soon, that, we are talking about a 2/3 majority and, with a few tricks from the leadership, if they can get some opposition Rajya Sabha MPs on the government side, or if they can ask them to, abstain from voting, the numbers can be managed to pass path-breaking reforms. One of the things that is very often talked about in the last 10, 15 years, right, before Atalji became PM, is that if our government is there, we want to change the constitution. We want to change the whole idea of India. The way India is seen, the way Bharat is seen both from outside and within. So this current constitution, especially the preamble of the constitution, is something that was started, in 77 or post-75 rather, after the emergency was implemented. It is not what Babasaheb Ambedkar ji had, done in 50-52. So this current preamble, what a lot of people love to share on their Insta stories, is not the preamble of the start or the beginning of India as an independent country. So I think there is a good chance of the preamble going back to the old one or a version of the old one, as the founding fathers of the country wanted it to be. And there is a chance that certain things in the constitution, like there's no, if you're a secular country, right? We keep talking about secularism. Now you tell me, if you're a secular country, why would you need something called a Waqf Act? A Waqf Act is basically you are, legitimizing separate electorates, separate, religious bodies for different communities. If we talk about hum sab saath hai, hum sab ek hai, then everything has to be, similar. It cannot be different in terms of, we can't divide communities. Similarly, why do you want something called a Places of Worship Act, which, denies Hindus to reclaim temples which have been kind of demolished, and other structures have been built over it over the last 200, 300 years. Why do you want that? How is that secular? How is not having UCC secular? I mean, UCC, people talk about, Hindutva and dividing the country. The UCC is the most secular law that can ever be passed. I mean, I would suggest the BJP leadership, don't make it uniform civil code, make it secular civil code. It's actually a secular, civil code, SCC. That sounds better. And, these are things which are not just, there's nothing Hindutva about these things. These are very secular laws. These are very progressive laws. These are laws which any progressive individual in this country, whether you're a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Parsi, whatever you are, you're an agnostic, you would want that, because this is promoting, improving your way of life. So UCC is good for the country, and I hope that is introduced. I hope the places of worship is removed. I hope the Waqf Act is removed. And, we have a lot of, progressive bills.
I mean, so basically you're advocating for religion-neutral laws, right? I mean, I would go so far as to say that, do we even need a minority affairs ministry? Would that ministry be required in this?
Exactly. Why should, in a secular country where everybody is equal, Amar, Akbar, Anthony is equal, why do you want, Akbar and Anthony to have a special community over an Amar, right? We're all equal. So there's no reason for this ministry to remain, and I do hope that in the next 10 years, the leadership, whoever is the Prime Minister going forward, they remove this the sham of a ministry, because it doesn't serve any purpose.
In fact,
we're all one people.
In fact, Harsh Madhusudan Gupta, a friend of mine, regularly talks about this in his book as well as in his talks, that the individual should be the center point of all policy legislations, rather than communities or groups. But anyways, coming back to the crux of the discussion, let's deep dive into the polls. Yeah, so we are going to cover all interesting states, north, south, east, west, and we are going to give a detailed view on what party is going to do what, which are the, the leaders with their own idiosyncrasies, where are they going to flip, what kind of tally do we expect between the opposition and the ruling parties. So we are going to get deep into all that in the next section.